This virtual consultation is on corrective hair transplant surgery. First of all, I'm very sorry that you need to undergo a correction for your previous hair transplant procedure. Unfortunately, it's a large part of what I do. What this virtual consultation is about is not corrective in sense of you've got a scarring hair loss or you've got a scar correction or a chemotherapy injury that's caused hair loss. What I'm talking about is correcting bad previous hair transplant work. There are a million reasons why hair transplants look unnatural, and it's really today far beyond that era where we had about 20 or 30 years ago big scalp lifts that look weird like the Uri flap or jury flap. It's gone are the days of those huge 4mm plugs that look weird, although I correct a lot of those still because people have had that 20 or 30 years ago that need those corrections. So if you have that, yes, I'm addressing you as well. But today it's more subtle. There are a lot of problems with a natural hair transplant. Things that look pluggy oftentimes don't even involve these huge 4mm plugs. They're just normal size grafts, but they look pinched, the angles look off, they look, I hate to say it, like pubic hair because they've been strangled during the graft insertion. They're not placed into the right size, they're not placed in the right angle, the hairline is too straight, it's maybe a female hairline instead of a male hairline. And I hate to say today's state of the industry is a lot of the dedicated hair surgeons are not only the ones doing this procedure, now we've got a whole slew of people that are doing it that are new to this field that don't even know how to design a normal hairline or how to create one that would actually age well over time. So there are a million factors that cause unnatural hairlines, unnatural transplant results, whether you're a man or a woman. I want to specifically talk about some of the camouflaging techniques of how I address fixing these situations. So if your hairline is weird, for example, I can oftentimes do what's called de-emphasis grafting. What that means is if your hair angles are straight up like this instead of low, they're large grafts that look pluggy or weird, the hairs look pubic hair and doesn't look right, I will put just a few hairs on the front of that. And if I can lower your hairline, if your hairline's too low, that's a different situation. But if I can just lower the hair by a centimeter or so, I can dense pack finer grafts and I can actually change the way those hairs look. So that is the easiest way to do it, is through this process called de-emphasis grafting. Other processes that would be entailed would be just overcoming the graft. So your hair angles are all over the place. I create an overwhelming number of grafts in the right direction. Then that's how I can overcome what you currently have in terms of poor direction where they're splayed open and they can't be combed well. Now, if your hairline is too low, that's a serious issue. That's much harder to manage because then we're talking about doing an excision of that area to lift that tissue up, almost like a brow lift, to bring the hair back to a normal position, and then transplanting in front of it. So that's a little bit more difficult if we're talking about that. Of course, the easiest is just to put more grafts in front of bad grafts to cover it. I oftentimes don't need to remove those bad grafts if they're too high. Sometimes just a portion is too low. Like if someone created a female hairline in a male, then I can just punch out those grafts and re-angle the grafts in front of it in a way that looks natural. Sometimes a combination of some removal, instead of a strip removal, it's a punch removal and then grafts in front of it. So those are just some techniques out there. This is a very complicated discussion because it's so tailored to the problems that I see. I have done excision, punch, and grafting in combination to make it look better. And the other thing what you want to do is sometimes you've got to limit your hairstyle. So for example, if I look and I say, you have limited donor capacity, but I've got to fix this. I don't know what I'm going to do. So then I've got to think creatively. Some creative ways are thinking about the cascade effect. Cascade effect is something I've talked about a lot in podcasts and virtual consultations, which means that if, let's say you part left or right, if I've got hairs over here that I can put more denser patch of hair here, you can comb it to cover the bad transplant. That's again, if you have limited grafts and I don't have enough to do my work, then I can leverage that design of combing it over. Now comb over, meaning taking hair from the temple hair, moving it over doesn't look natural. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about putting hairs in a natural position and creating a way that you style it to cover it. So you may be limited in your hairstyle. I may say, you know what? You may have to only style your hair left to right for me to cover this bad work because I don't have enough grafts to put it wherever I want. I've got to leverage that design, and that's another way of doing it. A gentleman I remember very vividly is he could not actually go out in public because he said he was so ashamed to have people see him because of his bad transplant bad scars in the back. He's got areas hanging down, lowering down that look unusual. His grafts look weird. That I've done 6 beard to scalp transplants. It doesn't look 100% natural, but it looks 1,000x more natural than what he had. Now he can go out in public without having to wear a baseball cap or something in shame, which is really, really moving to me. Other things that I can do to leverage it is hard. So I remember I said looking at not traditional sources of donor, like beard, is a great source of transplant. Combining beard with temple hair. I had a gentleman that had 4mm plugs that look unnatural. I did a combination of grafting from the temple, because the temple hair was still preserved, transplanted the whole frontal zone, and then the crown I used all beard hairs to cover what's called a slot deformity. You can see that on my website, one of the before and afters. So this is the creativity from years of experience of understanding how to draw in from these unusual supply sources and design methods to get better visual density. Another method that can be very helpful in corrective transplants would be using scalp micropigmentation. And we have a great artist that works on making that area look denser. So what is scalp micropigmentation? It's a fancy word to describe a scalp tattoo. That it mimics hair. So let's say there's scars that are visible. Let's say that there are, and I'm going to do a separate virtual consultation on just scar correction, but let's say there's other areas that just have unusual loss, but I don't have an ability to put enough grafts there. I may leverage scalp micropigmentation as another camouflaging element. So this is a very detailed discussion of corrective hair transplant. I don't want to go into too much in greater detail because it's so diverse. I wanted to give you some basic principles, some basic ideas, and also I want you to know that if someone can help you, I can help you. I oftentimes can do it because I've got so much more creative background and resources to figure out how to solve and tackle a difficult to fix problem. I can't promise you I can fix it because I don't know your situation, but I'm really hoping it's not hopeless for you. I encourage you to come in and let me take a look at what I can do to help you.